The majority of human beings die in their 70s attempting to live the life they were meant to live in their 20s. While the minority who discover their assignment early spend their 70s protecting what took 50 years to build. This is not philosophy. This is manufacturing protocol. Every product that leaves the factory comes with a life cycle, a maintenance schedule, and specific instructions for different operational phases. Your human body, your mental capacity, your emotional reservoir, your spiritual assignment. They were all designed with seasons. And the greatest tragedy in the cemetery is not the person who died young. It is the person who died old but never adjusted their operations manual to match their current season. Let me submit to you that the crisis of old age is not physical decline. It is the refusal to redesign your engagement strategy when the manufacturer clearly programmed you for a different assignment. You were not created to do the same thing at 70 that you did at 30. Yet I watch people destroy their final decades, fighting battles they were never assigned to win in that season. Listen carefully, because this will offend your training. Society told you that old age is about staying relevant, staying busy, staying visible, staying needed. That is a lie from the pit of human insecurity. Old age, when properly understood from the manufacturer's blueprint, is about strategic withdrawal, selective engagement, legacy protection, and the transfer of wisdom to those who have proven they can carry it. The manufacturer did not design your 70s to compete with your 30s. He designed them to complete what your 30s started. But you cannot complete in noise what you built in noise. You complete in silence what you built in struggle. This is kingdom economics. Every farmer knows that the final season of a fruit tree is not about producing the most fruit. It is about producing the highest quality seed. Your old age is not about quantity of output. It is about quality of investment. And you cannot invest quality into everyone, because not everyone has proven they have soil deep enough to sustain what you carry. Where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. When you do not understand why the manufacturer designed old age with reduced energy, slower movement, selective memory, and decreased tolerance for foolishness. You will abuse your final season trying to prove you are still who you used to be. But you are not supposed to be who you used to be. You are supposed to be who you were always becoming. The caterpillar does not stay a caterpillar to prove it can still crawl. It transforms into a butterfly because that was always the design. Your old age is not your decline. It is your transformation into the version of yourself that no longer needs to prove anything to anyone. This is the version that speaks less because it has learned more, engages less because it values peace more, and withdraws, not from fear, but from wisdom. Now let me correct a fundamental misunderstanding that has bankrupted the final years of millions. You think silence in old age means you have nothing to say, when in reality it means you have learned who deserves to hear it. There is a massive difference between the silence of defeat and the silence of strategy. The defeated are silent because they have been shut down. The strategic are silent because they have woken up. They have awakened to the reality that their remaining days are too valuable to spend on minds that are closed, hearts that are hard, and assignments they were never commissioned to complete. The manufacturer does not send a master craftsman to repair cheap furniture. He reserves the master for custom pieces that will outlast generations. In your old age, you are the master craftsman, and not every situation qualifies as a custom piece worthy of your remaining hours. Let me submit to you a principle that will transform how you see your final season. Your last 20 years are not about addition, they are about subtraction. Your first 50 years were about adding skills, adding relationships, adding experiences, adding responsibilities, adding reputation, adding influence. But your final years, if you understand the manufacturer's design, are about subtracting everything that does not align with your core assignment. This is not cruelty. This is clarity. This is not isolation. This is liberation. When you subtract the unnecessary, you protect the essential. When you subtract the draining, you preserve the life-giving. When you subtract the voices that never listened, you amplify the space for those who always did. The manufacturer programmed this into nature itself. Observe it. The tree in autumn does not grieve the falling leaves. It releases them to conserve energy for survival through winter. Your old age is your autumn, and every person, every commitment, every argument, every proving ground you release is a leaf you no longer need to sustain. Here is the revelation most will reject. in old age. Focusing on yourself is not selfish. It is obedient. You have spent decades pouring out. Now, the manufacturer is asking you to pour in. You have spent decades building others. Now, he is requiring you to protect yourself. You have spent decades speaking to crowds. Now, he is demanding you speak to chosen ones. The shift from public teacher to private mentor is not demotion. It is promotion into your highest assignment. But you cannot step into this assignment while still performing the old one. And this is where most people die exhausted, because they refuse to let go of what they were to become what they are. Listen to me. The manufacturer does not design vehicles to operate at maximum speed until the engine explodes. He designs them with a governed speed for longevity. Your old age is your governed speed. And when you resist it, you are not being strong. You are violating the operations manual. Let me show you something in nature that will unlock this for you. Consider the alpha lion in the pride. For years he fights, he protects, he hunts, he leads. He proves his dominance daily. But watch what happens when his strength begins to diminish. He does not try to remain alpha by fighting harder. He withdraws to the edge of the pride. He stops fighting the young males. He stops leading the hunts. He stops roaring at every threat. Is he defeated? No. He is wise. He recognizes the season has shifted, and his new assignment is not to dominate, but to observe. The young lions who respected him when he was strong will still seek his presence when they face what he has already conquered. But the young lions who mocked him, they get none of his wisdom, because he has learned that wisdom is not for everyone. It is for the worthy. This right here is your blueprint for old age. Stop roaring at every threat. Stop fighting every battle. Stop trying to lead every charge. Withdraw to your edge, and let those who valued you then find you now. You don't need motivation. You need revelation. The revelation is this. The manufacturer designed 3 primary seasons in your life. Your first season, birth to 30. It is discovery. You discover who you are, what you carry, where you belong, why you exist. Your second season, 30 to 60, is deployment. You deploy what you discovered. You build what you were born to create. You establish your assignment in the earth. Your third season, 60 and beyond, is distribution. You distribute the wisdom. You transfer the wealth. You hand over the blueprint, but only to hands that have proven they will not drop it. Society tries to extend season 2 into season 3, and this is why people collapse. They are operating in deployment mode when the manufacturer has shifted them to distribution mode. Deployment requires maximum energy output. Distribution requires minimum energy with maximum impact. You cannot distribute effectively while still trying to deploy everywhere. You must choose your distribution points. And this requires the silence to hear who is asking the right questions. Now, stay with me, because this is where the teaching gets practical. In old age, staying silent does not mean you stop speaking. It means you stop explaining yourself to those who have already decided not to understand you. There is a vast difference between teaching and defending, between mentoring and convincing, between transferring and begging someone to receive. When you were young, you convinced people. You proved yourself. You fought for your seat at tables that barely wanted you there. But in old age, you sit at your own table and you invite only those who have demonstrated the character to handle what you serve. This is not pride. This is preservation. Every table in the kingdom has a weight limit. And your table in old age cannot carry the weight of fools, pretenders, users, and the perpetually offended. Your silence is not shutting people out. It is protecting what took you a lifetime to build from those who would destroy it in a season because they never valued the process that produced it. Let me give you another picture, because revelation requires illustration. Imagine a master winemaker who has spent 50 years perfecting his craft. His vineyard produces wine that nations request, that collectors treasure, that connoisseurs study. Now in his 70s, a crowd gathers at his gate. Some want to learn his methods. Some want to steal his secrets. Some want to criticize his process. Some want free wine. Some want to prove they know better. And some genuinely want to carry on his legacy. If he opens his gate to everyone, what happens? The serious students get lost in the noise of the curious. The genuine apprentices cannot hear his instruction over the arguments of the critics. The legacy carriers cannot receive the transfer because he is exhausted answering questions from those who will never plant a vineyard. So what does the wise winemaker do? He closes the public gate. He stops the tours. He ends the debates, and he selects 3. Maybe 5 people who have already planted vines, who have already failed and returned, who have already proven they will do the work when no one is watching. To these few, he opens everything: his methods, his failures, his secrets, his heart. This is focus. This is silence. This is the assignment of old age. Here is what most people miss. Focus in old age is not about doing less. It is about doing what matters. You have lived long enough to know the difference between urgent and important, between temporary and eternal, between activity and accomplishment. The manufacturer gave you reduced energy in old age not to punish you, but to force you to choose. You cannot do everything anymore, so you must do the right thing. You cannot be everywhere anymore, so you must be where you belong. You cannot help everyone anymore, so you must help who you were sent to help. This forced limitation is divine mercy, because without it, you would scatter your final seed on concrete, and the world would lose what you were meant to leave behind. Your focus is your legacy protection system, and your silence is the fence around your final garden. Now, let me show you how to implement this, because principles without application produce nothing but conversation. First, you must identify your core 3. These are the 3 areas of life that matter most in your remaining years. For some, it is family legacy, spiritual foundation, and financial security. For others, it is mentoring successors, completing your assignment, and rest. You cannot have 10 core areas, because core means essential, and you do not have the energy for 10 essential areas. Choose 3, write them down, and let these 3 govern every decision you make, every request for your time, every demand for your energy, every expectation for your presence. You filter through your core 3. If it does not align, you decline. If it does not build, you withdraw. If it does not honor the season you are in, you stay silent. Second, create what I call your wisdom council. These are the 5 to 7 people who have proven over years, not months, that they value what you carry. They do not come for what they can get. They come for what they can become. They do not argue with your methods. They implement them and report back. They do not disappear when the lesson gets hard. They dig deeper when correction comes. These are the ones who get your time, your truth, your treasure, your testimony. Everyone else gets your kindness, but not your counsel. Everyone else gets your smile, but not your secrets. Everyone else gets your blessing, but not your blueprint. This is not cruelty. This is stewardship. Because what you carry is not yours to waste. It is yours to transfer to those who will multiply it. Third, establish your non-negotiables. These are the boundaries that protect your peace in your final season. Perhaps it is no lengthy phone calls after 8 at night because your rest is now essential. Perhaps it is no unannounced visits because your energy must be scheduled, not stolen. Perhaps it is no debates about your past decisions because you have learned that people who were not in your storm have no right to question how you sailed your ship. Perhaps it is no financial rescues for people who refused your financial wisdom when they had plenty. Your non-negotiables are not mean. They are mature. They announce to the world that you have learned the value of your remaining years, and you will not negotiate them away to people who never valued your past years. Fourth, and this is critical, you must schedule your silence. Because our culture worships noise and punishes rest. Block out hours in your week where you are unreachable. Not because you are avoiding people, but because you are hearing God, recalibrating your assignment, and processing what you have learned. The manufacturer designed you to need more silence in old age because you have more to process, more to understand, more to release, and more to protect. Your silence is not emptiness. It is fullness that refuses to spill out to those who bring nothing but empty cups they expect you to fill. In your silence, you remember who you are, why you are still here, and what you are meant to complete before you leave. Let me submit to you that the most dangerous person in old age is the one who still needs everyone's approval. When you are 70 and still performing for applause, you have missed the entire assignment. The manufacturer did not preserve your life so you could keep dancing for crowds that were never assigned to your destiny. He preserved your life so you could complete what he started, transfer what he gave you, and rest in the confidence that you ran your race, not someone else's. The moment you stop caring what people think, you start living what God designed. And the freedom in that realization is worth more than every title, every position, every platform you ever held. Because at the end, none of those things follow you into eternity, but what you built in obedience does. Here is the truth that religion will not tell you, but the kingdom demands you understand. Your old age is not your waiting room for death. It is your finishing room for life. Everything you started but could not complete because you were still building, you complete now. Every relationship you invested in but could not see the return, you see the fruit now. Every seed you planted in tears, you harvest now in joy. But you cannot harvest if you are still scattering seed everywhere. You cannot complete if you are still starting everything. You cannot finish strong if you refuse to stop running weak. The manufacturer gives you the grace to finish, but you must have the wisdom to stop beginning. New projects, new platforms, new movements, new campaigns. These belong to those in season 2, not season 3. Your season 3 assignment is to perfect, protect, and pass on. And you cannot do any of those 3 while still trying to perform, prove, and please. Let me tell you a story that reveals this principle in a way you cannot forget. There was a master builder who constructed buildings that stood for generations. His designs were studied. His methods were sought. His reputation was global. In his 70s, requests poured in from every nation. Build this, design that, consult here, travel there. And the master builder, trained by culture to stay relevant, said yes to everything. He designed 40 buildings in his final 5 years, but he completed none of them. He started foundations in 20 cities, but he finished 0. He consulted with 100 firms, but he transferred his methods to none because he was too busy being everywhere to train anyone. When he died at 78, exhausted and empty, he left behind 40 incomplete projects, 20 abandoned foundations, and 0 successors who could build what he built. The tragedy was not that he died. The tragedy was that he died incomplete because he refused to focus. He rejected silence, and he spent his final years starting what he should have been finishing. Now compare this to another builder of equal skill who in his 70s said no to 39 requests and yes to 1. He took 3 young builders who had already proven their commitment, and for 5 years he taught them everything. Every mistake he made, every shortcut that failed, every principle that worked, every secret the industry did not know. He completed 1 building in 5 years, but that building became the training ground that produced a generation of master builders. When he died, his methods lived, his standards continued, and his legacy multiplied. Same skill, same season, different focus, different silence, different outcome. Which builder understood his assignment? The second one. Because he recognized that old age is not about how much you do. It is about how well you transfer. And transfer requires focus, demands silence, and respects boundaries. You cannot transfer to a crowd. You can only transfer to the committed. You cannot pass on your legacy while you are still running from event to event. You pass it on when you create space for the deep work of impartation. And impartation is not quick. It is not loud. It is not public. It is quiet, intentional, repeated, and reserved for those who show up even when the cameras are off. Now, I need you to hear what I'm about to say because it will offend your sense of obligation. You do not owe everyone an explanation for your silence. You do not owe everyone access to your time. You do not owe everyone a seat at your table. You do not owe everyone your energy, your wisdom, your resources, or your presence. What you owe is obedience to your assignment, stewardship of your remaining strength, protection of your legacy, and completion of what you started. The people who get offended when you focus on yourself in old age are the same people who took from you in your youth and never said thank you. The people who call you selfish when you establish boundaries are the same people who had no boundaries when they needed something from you. The people who accuse you of changing are correct. You have changed. You have matured from a public reservoir that everyone drank from to a private well that only the worthy access. And that is not wrong. That is wisdom. Let me declare something prophetically over your life right now. Your best years are not behind you. They are in front of you. But only if you redesign how you see them. If you keep measuring your value by how many people need you, you will die exhausted and empty. But if you measure your value by how well you complete your assignment, protect your peace, and transfer your treasure, you will die full, finished, and fulfilled. The manufacturer designed your final years to be your richest years, not in activity, but in impact. One word spoken to the right person at the right time in your old age carries more weight than 1,000 words spoken to crowds in your youth. But you will never find that right person if you are still trying to reach every person. You will never speak that right word if you are still defending your old words. You will never create that right impact if you are still chasing every opportunity. Here is the practical assignment I am giving you today. And I want you to implement this within the next 7 days, not 7 months. First, write down every commitment, every relationship, every project, every expectation that is currently draining you. Be honest, brutally honest. Because the truth will set you free, but first it will confront you. Second, beside each item, ask yourself 3 questions. Does this align with my core assignment? Does this person honor my season? Does this activity protect or deplete my legacy? If you answer no to any of these questions, that item goes on your subtraction list. Third, within 30 days, you begin the process of gracious withdrawal from everything on that subtraction list. You do not need to announce it. You do not need to defend it. You simply start reallocating your energy to what matters. Fourth, you identify your wisdom council, those 5 to 7 people who qualify for your time, and you schedule deep intentional moments with them quarterly, not randomly. Fifth, you create your silent schedule, your non-negotiables, and you protect them like you would protect your final seed, because that is exactly what they are. The time is now, not tomorrow, not next year, not when you retire, now. Because every day you operate outside your design season, you lose a day you can never recover. Every hour you spend on people who do not value your wisdom, you steal an hour from those who do. Every moment you waste trying to prove yourself to those who have already dismissed you, you rob yourself of the peace the manufacturer assigned to your final years. You were not created to end your life stressed, scattered, and struggling for relevance. You were created to end your life focused, fulfilled, and full of the satisfaction that comes from knowing you finished what you started. You protected what you built, and you passed on what you learned. Be original, not a copy of how everyone else does old age. Let them chase relevance. You chase completion. Let them fear silence. You embrace it. Let them scatter their final seed. You plant yours strategically. Let them die surrounded by crowds who took everything. You die surrounded by chosen ones who will carry everything. This is the difference between aging and maturing, between declining and refining, between ending and finishing. The choice is yours. The time is now. And the manufacturer is waiting to see if you will obey the operations manual for your final season or if you will burn out trying to rewrite it. Die empty, but not exhausted. Die finished, but not frantic. Die silent to the noise, but loud in your legacy. This is your assignment. This is your season. And this is your time to focus on yourself. Stay silent to the unworthy and complete what you were born to build.